weekly meetings like this one. In this lecture, I'd like just to talk in general about the play, about the new play, Death of Salesman. I sent you a summary of the play and also a movie that I hope that you have watched. Okay. Okay, so the play is a new one in many respects. In one respect, it is an American play, and as far as I can tell, it is the first time that you study a play from an American playwright. So far, the plays that you have studied in year 2 and 3, and also in year 4, they were written by British playwrights, and in the from Shakespeare and William Congreve, George Bernard Shaw, and even Samuel Beckett. He was an Irish playwright. So in one way, he is also a British playwright. This is the first play that we study for an American playwright. And of course, the setting is the United States, and the story is taking place in the time in the 40s. The play was written in the 40s, and it is talking about the Great Depression. As you might have heard about the Great Depression, it was an economic depression that that took place in 1929 سنة 1929. الكساد العظيم أو الأعظم اللي صار بالولايات المتحدة وبالعالم. So the play is talking about this, and it is also new in another sense. The play is having a hero who is an ordinary man. It is a tragedy. And always tragedies deal, you remember we said tragedy is an aristocratic genre. Tragedies deal with the with kings, with princes, and so on, with leaders, just like, for example, Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, and others. So this is the first time, not really the first time, but this is the first time that we study a tragedy that revolves about an ordinary human being. So this has some meaning that we later are going to talk about. And so the play, as we said, is the first American play that you are reading. And second, the play is a tragedy about an ordinary human being. And that ordinary human being is a salesman, and he's called Willy Loman. And you know the meaning of salesman, يعني إنسان بائع. So we have a tragedy about an ordinary human being, and there are some meanings that we hopefully later are going to touch upon. Why we have this shift from tragedy that speaks about the life of great human beings like kings or princes or leaders, and we move to the ordinary man, and we created a tragedy out of the life of an ordinary person. So the play was talking mainly about talking about the life of Willy Loman. And as you might have discovered, Willy Loman is a salesman, and he lives in the house with other 3 people, with his wife, Linda Loman. Another important character that we will have time, hopefully, to talk about. And his 2 sons, his older son, Biff, and his youngest son, Happy. Okay, and it's mainly the time is mainly 1 or 2 days in the life of Willy Loman, and we see that when the play starts, Willy Loman was coming from a journey to another state, to another city in the United States, and in order to sell some goods for a company that he works for. And we discovered that he did not sell anything. And we discovered that in the last period, Willy Loman was not selling anything, and practically he was out of job and he could not sell anything. So he doesn't have money. And in order to support his family, he was borrowing money from his neighbor, Charlie. And he was telling his wife that he is working, while in reality he is not. Okay. The main problem for Willy, in addition to the economic problem, the main problem is with his sons, and more specifically with his older son, Biff. Willy Loman raised his sons in a certain way, in a way that they believe in the American dream, that they believe that in order to be successful, you have to be liked, or you have to be well liked. So success depends on your appearance, on the impression that you make on other people. This is what Willy Loman taught his sons. He didn't tell them that success depends on how well you do in your school, what degree you have in college, and so on. Rather, it only depends on appearance. This is what he taught his sons. Okay, and then we discovered that what he was telling them was an illusion. Willy Loman has a very kind of misguided idea of success. The idea of success was very, that he believed in was very misguided. So he taught his sons that in order to succeed, you need to have a good appearance. You need to impress people. This is what is important in order for you to succeed. But then they discover his sons, I mean Biff, the older son, and Happy, the younger son. They discover that this is a mistake. They depended on their appearance, and they ended up failures. And Biff was a failure. He was fired from school. He did not get a degree. He did not go to college. And Happy was also a failure. So both of them were failures, although Biff even fails in more different ways than Happy, the younger son, does. So the problems, as we have said, for Willy Loman is twofold. First, his financial problem, because he's old. He does not qualify as a good salesman. He cannot sell goods anymore. People do not respect him and do not know him anymore. This is the first problem. And the second problem was that he was not, he was having troubles with his sons. And he was having troubles with his sons because he was teaching them, or he was expecting from them to succeed, depending only or mainly on their appearance, on their physical appearance, to be of good health, to be of good shape, to have a good body. According to Willy Loman, this is what really matters. But in reality, it turns out that these things are just illusions, and he taught them to fail rather than to succeed. So these are the problems for Willy Loman, and we see them. There is another family that Arthur Miller is using in order to contrast with the Lomans, and that family is the family of Charlie, of Uncle Charlie. And Charlie has his own business. He doesn't work for anyone. And he has a son, Bernard. And Bernard was different from Biff and Happy. Bernard was not of a good body, of a good shape. He did not have a good health. Students, could I ask you please to mute your mics? So there are one or two mics that are still open, and they are causing some noise. So please, if you can, try to mute them. Okay, so Willie, as we said, Charlie is a man who works he is kind of a freelancer who works not for anyone else, but for himself. And we have Bernard, and Willie and his sons were always making fun of Bernard. They were always saying that Bernard is not going to succeed, and that Bernard he is not going to succeed because he's not well liked. He might be liked. People might like him, but not very much. So because this was the criterion, this was the standard for success, to be well liked. And according to them, because Bernard is not well liked, so he's not going to succeed. Bernard, his health was not good. That's why Willy Loman was saying about him that he is anemic, and that he suffers from anemia, فقر الدم. So in contrast to Biff and Happy, who have good health. So Willy Loman was thinking that because Bernard, his neighbor's son, was not very well liked, he's not going to succeed like his sons, Biff and Happy. And he was also making fun of Charlie because he was thinking that Charlie is also not well liked, not like Willy Loman. So what happens is that later on, when they grow up, Bernard becomes a very successful man. He goes to college, he studies law, and he becomes a lawyer. And we hear from his father that he was accepted to the Supreme Court, المحكمة العليا للولايات المتحدة. So this is a very significant indicator of success, that Bernard was accepted to the Supreme Court, while Biff and Happy did not have anything they did not go to college. They failed. We see that Biff was working in a farm. So this is not success. This is not compared, in fact, to Bernard. So it turns out that the ideals that Willy Loman was teaching to his sons were wrong. He was teaching them that in order to be successful, you need to be well liked. It doesn't have to do. It has nothing to do with hard work. It doesn't have to do with education and so on. But it turns out these things are wrong. And because he taught his sons these mistaken ideas, his sons turn out to be failures. They are not a success. And so the play is mainly about this. It is mainly about Willy Loman. And it is mainly about the thinking of Willy Loman. That's why it's just like you see in the play, we see that the whole house is just like we see the other characters from the point of view of Willy Loman. The house is like just a transparent thing that when you see the play performed on a stage, you see all the rooms appearing at once, at the same time. We see, for example, Willy Loman and his wife, Linda, speaking downstairs, and we see Biff and Happy talking upstairs. Everything is apparent to us, just like the fourth wall is broken, and we can't see through the house. We can't see the characters. So mainly, most of the events happen in. Most of the events happen in the mind of Willy Loman. The conversation with Charlie. These are the things that Willy Loman remembers. And there is another character who is dead by the time of the play, but he appears just as the memory of Willy Loman. And that character is Ben, Uncle Ben. And we see Uncle Ben, for example, he was a brother of Willy Loman, and he tells his story. He says that at the age of 17, he went to the jungle, and at the age of 21, he went out of the jungle a rich man, and he was going to Alaska, and he was asking Willy Loman to come with him to Alaska, but Willy Loman kind of refused, and he said, "I have a good job here, and I would not sacrifice my good job to come with you." But we see that all the characters we are seeing, or most of the conversation that we are seeing, is happening in the mind of Willy Loman. That's why you see that there are many levels of action. You see that some of the action is happening in the present. Another part of the action is happening in the past. So Willy Loman imagines the conversations that he has had with his wife, with his friend Charlie, with his brother Ben, and so on. So all the things we see that all these things are happening in the imagination of Willy Loman. So mostly what we see in the stage is happening in the imagination of Willy Loman. And also the movie that you have watched, you see that we have many characters and many situations happening at the same time and at the same place. And in fact, this is because of the interaction between the present and the past. So, for example, when Willy Loman was speaking with Charlie when they were playing, when he was speaking with Charlie and when they were playing cards, he remembers he imagines a conversation with his brother Ben, who is dead. Okay, so Willy Loman is speaking to Charlie in the present, and he was speaking to Ben in the past. That's why it's just a kind of hallucination. Sometimes he speaks some sentences, and Charlie thinks that Willy Loman was speaking to him, and he answers him, and it seems that it is irrelevant because Willy Loman in reality was not speaking to him. Willy Loman was speaking to Ben. Okay, I have told you that if you want to say anything, there is an option in your user interface. You can wave your hand just like that, and I can see the sign, and I can unmute your mic so that you can speak. So you can interrupt me at any moment if you want to say anything, if you have a question, or if you have any addition. So you try to use that option, please, if you need to. Okay. So as we have said then, that almost everything is happening in the imagination of Willy Loman. And so sometimes he is in the present, but he remembers something that happened in the past. And for example, the conversations with his brother Ben are happening in the past. The story of the woman whom he met in the hotel, and when Biff came to him in the hotel room, also is happening in the past. It is not in the present. So we see all these things really taking place at once. That's why the movie, or maybe if you watch a performance, or if you read the text, it might seem confusing because of that. But when you take attention of that some of the conversations are happening in the present, and some other conversations are happening in the past, then in this case you will have a sense of what is going on really, what is really going on in the play. And so as we said, the main problem in the play is the problem between Willy Loman and his son Biff. He was expecting his son, was teaching his son to be successful, but he was disappointed with his son. His son did not turn out to be successful as the father wanted. And so one of the things that led to the failure of Willy Loman, the failure of Biff, was the teaching, the misguided teaching of his father. This is one. And the other thing was an event or an accident that happened to Biff with his father. Biff, as we have seen, was not doing good in school, and so he was flanked by the math teacher, and so he went to he knew that his father was in Boston in that hotel, so he knew he went very fast to his father in order to ask for the help of his father to ask the teacher to get him back to class. And what happened was that Willy Loman was cheating on his wife Linda with another woman in that hotel room. And so when there was knocking on the door, and it was Biff was knocking on the door, Willy asked the woman to hide. Okay? And then when he opened the door, he was shocked to see his son coming to him. And his son was very anxious. He was asking him to speak to the math teacher in order to help him. But we knew later that what happened with that, the woman appeared, and Biff discovered the cheating of his father against his mother. And that's why he lost all respect for his father from that time on. And he left the house because he could not stay with his father anymore. And because at the same time, he could not tell his mother. So he kind of chose not to, he chose not to stay in the house, and he was wandering in many different cities. So this caused the main problem between Biff and his father. And up to the end, his father could not, Biff could not tell that to anyone else. And it was really Biff who discovered the self-deception of his father. Biff discovered that the idea that Willy Loman has about success was a misguided idea, and that it was not a good idea. And we see, but by the end of the play, we see that Biff was saying that we did not tell the truth in this house for 10 minutes. So it is kind of a conflict between the father and the son. The father represents kind of self-deception. He was deceiving himself. He was thinking that he is successful. He was thinking that his sons are successful. He was thinking that his sons are going to be successful. He was deceiving himself because none of this was real. It was just a lie. He was just telling himself that lie, and he was believing that lie. And the other thing was that the other side of the conflict was Biff, and Biff knew very well that his father was deceiving himself. He discovered this self-deception, and so Biff escaped from the house in order to find success for himself, in order to live by his own standards, not by the standards of his own father. And so this is the main idea in the play. It is about Willy Loman, and it is about the it is about Willy Loman, and it is about the self-deception that Willy Loman was practicing on himself, and as a result, the deception that that Willy Loman was practicing on other people. Okay, so this is the main idea of the play. This is the kind of the main story of the play, and this is the play, the main sequence of the play, and as I have said, it is it is a kind of a new structure for us. Okay, and when we come to the themes of the play, there are really many themes that we are going to speak about. One of the themes is capitalism, and the play was speaking about the capitalist society, and is speaking about it was speaking about the American society and the effect of capitalism on these simple people like Willy Loman and the people who are workers, and the people who do not have kind of businesses of their own. And so this is one thing, and we will have time to speak extensively about capitalism, and we will see whether the play is capitalist or anti-capitalist. And it was Arthur Miller criticizing capitalism, or he was saying that capitalism is good, and so on. Another theme is as you can see here, illusion and reality. And it is very important, really, because what happens to Willy Loman, and the tragedy of Willy Loman is the tragedy of illusion, tragedy of self-deception. He was deceiving himself. No one else was deceiving him, but rather it was he who was deceiving himself. The third theme was the American dream. And this is something that you need to read about. It is available on the web if you read about the American dream or what we mean by that. And so it is about the narrative that the United States society was based on, and how it is about how to be successful. It was about what it means to be a successful individual in that society. It's about how to be happy, how to achieve greatness, and so on. And Willy Loman was kind of a believer in the American dream, and later on we will see also the question of whether Arthur Miller was criticizing the American dream or not, whether Arthur Miller was saying that the American dream is something good or bad, and so on. Okay, another theme is feminism and the role of women. Okay, and we'll see that this thing is important, really. Okay, feminism, we see that with regard to feminism, we see that there are many female characters in the play. One of them, like Linda, and the others, like many girls that, for example, Happy was making a relationship with. And we see that how, for example, Biff and Happy were dealing with these girls, and how they were using these girls for their own advantage. One important thing that we are going to speak about is the idea of the objectification of women, how these men are treating women just like objects, not subjects. So this is an important thing that we are going to see. The other theme is technology, and technology is something that is mentioned many times in the play. For example, the old car, when Willy Loman was remembering his old car, and also when Howard, the businessman for whom Willy Loman is working, when Howard was buying a new voice recorder, and he was very impressed by this voice recorder. And we see in all these instances that Willy Loman, the hero of the play, was not very well adapted to technology, and this is something that might explain why he is failing. So it's kind of a contrast between the old and the new, and anyone who cannot adopt to the new is doomed to failure. these are some of the themes, and there are certainly many others that we are going to touch upon as we move along in the play. Another thing in the play that we need to see is symbolism. There are many symbols that the writer Arthur Miller was using. We have the football, for example. Later on, we see, and also the basketball when Biff and Happy were playing with the basketball, and many other really events of this kind. And also we have sneakers. Also, this is related to sports and to playing. And another thing was seeds. This is something important when Willy Loman was trying to sow the seeds that حاول يزرع هاي البذور. And seeds are symbols of his sons, that just like you, and sons just like seeds that you plant, and you are waiting for them to grow up, and so that you can eat from their fruit. Okay, but and the other thing was stockings. When we see Willy Loman really Willy Loman was kind of giving the woman in the hotel room stockings. So he was very generous with that woman. And we see that he was not very much generous with his wife, Linda. We see Linda was kind of redoing her stockings, and she was kind of reusing them many times, but Willy Loman was kind of not giving her anything. And this is, something that in which stockings are used as symbols, that with his wife, he is very stingy. He's not giving her enough things for herself, but with other women, he is very generous. So this is mainly kind of very rough summary about the play. I would like to hear from you. I think our time is going to run out. We might be running out of time, so the interconnection might be cut. I will kind of reopen the meeting. So if there is any cut in the if there is any interruption in the meeting, just stay there, please. You can re-enter the room. So don't worry about that. Okay, so I am interested to hear from you if you have anything to say about that, if you have any questions. Of course, you can open your mics in order to talk. You can wave so that I can unmute the mic so that you can talk. Anyone? Can you hear me at this point or not, please? Hello.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello. Who's that?
I'm Fatima Mohammed.
Okay, Fatima, go on.
Well, as I read and you speak about the play, that the whole play is about the American dream. Can you please explain to me, is Arthur Miller with the American dream or against it? I can't understand that.
Well, I cannot give a rough answer about that now, because it is very complicated. I think it's not against the American dream, but rather it's against the misunderstanding of the American dream that Willy Loman is practicing. It's the same with capitalism. It's not against capitalism, but rather against the misunderstanding of capitalism. And there are many criticisms about capitalism in the play, but we cannot blame what happens to Willy Loman on capitalism. Willy Loman is himself a failure. He is self-delusional. So we cannot blame the American dream or capitalism on the failure of Willy Loman. I think, yeah, this is what I think about it.